Welcome to the Creator's Journey with the Halfling and the Spaceman. We love talking to creators about their various journeys and how they got to be where they are now. And we are super excited to have with us, and I know I'm going to mess it up. So I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself, please.
Sure. Hi, I'm Rachanee Lumayno. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate that because I really don't want to butcher anybody's name. So thank you for that. And we are really excited to have you, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us. We're looking forward to a great conversation. So, um, now you have a very interesting and busy life. I read some things. You're a writer. You are a voiceover actress. You've
Mhm.
got on camera credits. You've got you, you are even on. I don't even know if I want to say this. Maybe we'll save that. There's a little extra something in there that I read about, and some people listening may get really excited. So we'll save that. But anyway, you're one of those creatives that just seem to do it all. So we're excited to delve into it. Uh, I, I guess we'll just go ahead and get started. So usually we start by asking guests to tell them, tell us and the audience a little bit about themselves. Sort of your growing up years and the things that you were into as you were growing up, whether it was fantasy sci-fi, whether it was anime, whether it's whatever it may be. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, and also when did that spark of creativity get a hold of you? When did that first spark happen?
Oh, wow. So originally, I'm from Michigan. For your viewers out there, I'm originally from the Detroit area.
Ah,
And, I don't know if you've had Michiganders on the podcast. You're into our hands. But I don't know. I think for me, I'd always been really creative, but it wasn't something that I was supposed to pursue, if that makes sense. So, like, I remember being like in fourth grade and I had a slumber party with my friends, and I wrote a script and I made them perform it for my birthday. And it ended up like, and then at the end, we all got cake. It was like, a fun little like happy ending kind of thing. Or like acting out silly voices when I would babysit and I'd read kids' books, to my charges and stuff like that. So it was always there. But I mean, like, I'm supposed to be a doctor. I'm supposed to be a lawyer, And then I went into photojournalism. So it was kind of creative, but it wasn't,
yeah.
what I was supposed to be doing. And and I loved photography. I thought I would do that. And then after college, I just sort of kind of took a different path. This is actually a story that I've told people before. I mean, I'd done everything right. I had taken the internships. I'd been working at newspapers,
Hmm.
taking like, jobs every summer and everything like that. And at the end of college, I was at a job fair
Hmm.
and interviewing with different newspapers and stuff. And I was going around showing my portfolio to different recruiters, and everyone's like, "Oh, wow, this is really great, blah, blah, blah. We'd love to have you at our paper." And so I'm feeling pretty good about myself. And then I went to the Detroit Free Press table, and it was a paper that I'd always wanted to work for. I really admired them. And I'd never worked for them. I'd never had an internship or, anything like that. So I showed my portfolio to them, and they knew who I was because I'd been trying to court them over my college career. And the photo editor, I expected her to be like, "Oh, these are great." And she goes, "I've seen these before. What have you been doing?" And I'm like, What do you mean?" And she's like, "You've showed me this portfolio before." She's like, "Technically, they're very good, but why haven't you shot anything new?" And at the time, I had actually just gone through a really bad breakup, and I had kind of shut myself in my room and written a bunch of songs, just to kind of get all that junk out. And so I said, "Well, I've been writing music and playing coffee shops and stuff like that." And she's like, "Well, that's really cool. Why won't you do that?" And I'm like, "Because I'm supposed to be a photographer." you know? And so she goes, "All right, tell you what." She goes, "When I was pursuing a career in journalism, I said to myself, I'll give it 5 years." She's like, "I was good at design. I was good at writing. I was good at photography. I'll get 5 years in one track and I can always reroute." So she picked photography. And within 1 year, she was working at the Washington Post. I mean, that's wow, amazing, right? So she says, "You just give it 1 year." She's like, "We'll flip a coin. If it comes up, say heads, you do journalism. If it comes up tails, you do music." But she goes, "If it comes up for photography, you sell the guitar, you stop playing live shows, you don't write, you just get rid of it completely." And I started like, my palms were sweating. I said, "Don't flip the coin." And she goes, "Okay, you know what you need to do." And the intern next to her was like, "What just happened?" And I walked away and I said to my classmate Kelly comes up, she's like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Kelly, I think the photo editor of the Detroit Free Press just talked me out of my major." And so I went into music, and then after that it was acting, and now voiceover, and here we are writing. So everything kind of all culminates together, but I I blame that one moment for putting me on this path.
Wow. That that is that's fascinating. Somebody actually challenged you with what you thought you wanted and said, "One way or another, you gotta figure it out and you need to do it now." And she put you up to it. And I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, thank
That's
heavens for people who challenge us to be our true selves.
Yes, absolutely. So kudos for her and kudos for you to say, okay, I guess this is what I'm doing. You know, well, what about your family? How did they influence your growing up? I mean, I heard I should be a doctor or that type of thing. Was that a family influence? Was that a parental influence? Or
I mean, I think it's a bit of a joke growing up Asian, like we should be doctors or lawyers or something like that. My mom is actually a retired doctor, and she was very good at it. Um, I think we'd always been kind of interested in the arts, and they encouraged it. Like we would go see shows in Toronto and stuff like that. Toronto's kind of like a little Broadway, so we saw a lot of professional theater. I did theater all through middle school and high school, but I think they kind of thought of it as like oh, that's a nice hobby, something good to put on your resume when you go into college and you show all your extracurriculars. And then it's not a hobby. What are you doing? You're still doing it. And it's funny because now that I'm actually a working actor, my mom's like, "Okay, cool. You can make money at this. This is good. This is good." If I wasn't making money, I think she'd be worried.
Making money is good. It
We like
it
making
is.
money.
It is. Making money is good. Yes.
Spaceman needs more money.
Well, the spaceman needs to ask the next question.
Alright, well, it's time for the spaceman. Time for the spaceman.
It is.
You've got so many creative projects going on. Uh, does any of this tie back to that question we all ask ourselves when we're kids? What do I wanna be when I grow up?
Oh gosh. I mean, it's funny because I think in some capacity I knew I'd always be in a creative field. I just didn't know where it would end up being, if that makes sense. But when you look at things like photography or acting or writing or I don't even know, like painting or performance, like like avant-garde performance art or something, the through line on all of that is creating, it's storytelling, it's just using different mediums, right? Like you tell a story through a song, you tell a story through writing, you tell a story through painting. It's just a different medium, but you're always creating something and conveying a story. And so I think it was just me figuring out the best medium to tell a story through, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the things that we enjoy about doing our podcast is that we get to hear these stories, about, well, mm, I guess the story that we hear is how creators get to where they are. What is their story? What was their path to get there? And it's different for everybody. Everybody has a different story, which is one of the really neat things that we enjoy about the podcast. Uh,
And the number of people who actually went into STEM fields who really had that internal longing for a creative outlet that we talked to. Oh yeah, I've been building satellite navigation systems for 20 years, and then I just published my first novel. It's great. It's great. It's
Uh,
great. So over to you, Janet.
uh, well, what has been your biggest motivation in terms of, you know, it seems like you sort of like tested the waters on these different, different creative outlets. So was it just that you felt like you didn't find the right one to start with and you just kept trying different things, or what was your motivation to keep going at a different, in different avenues?
Oh, I see. Okay. Um, it sounds crass, but I do like making a living at it. I will say that. It was kind of one of those, if the door closed, then I would have to pivot because, and I think this is, I'm guessing that other creatives you've had on the show probably have a similar story.
Mhm.
There are seasons where you make money at it, and there are seasons where you're like, fine, I will go bag groceries because it's just not paying the bills. It's life, and that's fine. You have those ebbs and flows. And I actually think that sometimes having the day job is good because you have to live in order to create and tell stories. So when I was doing music, for example, I did that for several years. I toured the country. And then that was like when we had the housing crisis, that was like 2008, 2009. And people were like, I would love to buy your album, but I have to buy groceries. And I went, ooh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this right now
Mm.
because I can't sustain myself touring. It's not going to be pretty, So I had to pivot and I chose acting. Like there's money in that, whatever. But you know what I'm saying? At least I could stay home and like have a home base instead of being on the road. So, it's a lot of times for me, it's like I see what's happening in the market and I have to pivot. When I went into voiceover, I'd kind of dabbled a little bit. And then ironically, I was like, I'm gonna go full time into acting because it's time. And that was January of 2020.
Oh,
And 2 months later, surprise. And it was ironic because every acting coach told their clients to go into voiceover because we were stuck at home. So
Yeah,
I couldn't get equipment for 8 months. I was using like a really crappy USB mic and my recording sounded horrible. It was like, like kind of thing.
yeah.
And so finally I was able to upgrade my equipment. And then you kind of see like where people even out and they go, okay, this is not for me. I'm going to go back to this, or I'm not in this field at all. And it just sort of evens out, but it takes time, to kind of find that niche um and not compete with everybody for gear.
Ah,
we understand. We understand. We actually came to podcasting sidelong through magazine publishing, which is just
Oh,
a story on and of itself.
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
all because of the pandemic.
It is amazing what the pandemic did for so many people, and not bad things necessarily, just changes, you know?
Mhm.
Just like your story, it caused you to pivot and, you know, decide that, "Oh, I better not do this right now. Let me do this instead." And it wasn't a bad thing. It just, it just I guess there's a beginning and an end for things. I guess is what I'm trying to get to. Uh,
All right, next question, up to the spaceman. So, Roshni, when you reached out to us, you only listed your achievements as a young adult author, but you've done so much more. But let's talk a little bit about your books.
Sure.
Has your writing become your sole creative focus?
I joke that it's my retirement plan, which is not a very good retirement plan at this point. But again, it's just, so I started writing during the pandemic. My first book, Air of Amber and Fire, was based off a D&D character that I was supposed to play in a live stream that did not happen because of the pandemic. And so when I should have been baking bread or cleaning my house, I wrote 17 drafts of this story instead, and my house is still messy and I still cannot bake bread. But I enjoyed it so much, and I'm like, I'm just going to keep going, you know?
Mhm.
And I mean, I've been a writer, like I was a journalism major and stuff like that. So I've been a writer consistently through my career, but it was just a different outlet.
Yeah.
And you know, I've being in Hollywood, I've also been a script writer, and it's very freeing to write something. First of all, fantasy is my favorite genre, and also I can write something where I don't have to care about budget because I'm not trying to sell this. You know, when I write scripts, I have to think like how many people are involved? Are there a lot of extras? What about costumes? How many locations? Because if I'm trying to sell it or make it, you got to keep it within a budget.
Mhm.
Fantasy, fine. You want fire breathing dragons? Let's go. You want magic? Let's go. You know, I don't care about budget. It's great.
Yeah, and you can always hope Amazon picks it up for the next Rings of Fire, Ring of what is it? Rings of Power, Rings of Power.
Yep.
Rings of
Let
Power.
them worry about budget.
Or yeah, Wheel of Time. You know, they got money.
Wheel of Time. Yeah.
They got money.
Exactly.
Let them spend it on you. Like,
I like the way you think.
Uh, well, let's talk a minute about you mentioned touring, and then the pandemic hit and you thought, okay, this is not good. So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about like your music side as leading into the touring and all.
Sure, sure. So, like I said, my music career was kind of born out of the fact that I was going through a rough patch in my life. And I mean, I guess writing depressing songs is a better outlet than like drinking or drugs. So, there you go.
Mhm.
And by the time I was done, I had like all these songs and I just was like, I don't know what to do with them. And so I started playing local coffee shops and I was like, maybe I'll make an album and why not? And then it just blossomed into an actual career. And I went down to Nashville, I recorded several albums, took it on the road. And for 7 years, that was my full time job. And I toured the US multiple times. I had seasons basically. I would tour summer, fall, winter, I would stay close to home, and then spring. And I got to see a lot of the US. I got to meet some great people. It was a lot of fun.
Now, this is what I was talking about right at the beginning. There is a band that very recently made global headlines because they reunited. Do you know who I'm talking about? You're on one of their albums. At least I got that from reading on your website.
Oh my gosh. I was thinking way, way back. I'm like, who did I
No,
work with back on my. You're talking about BTS, aren't you?
I am.
Oh, yes. Okay. All
Definitely.
right. Not that far back, Rashidi.
Not
Bring it
that
more
far now.
modern. Yes, yes. BTS
Well
just reunited. Yeah.
well, how did that happen? How
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so not everybody
So
gets to work with a global phenomenon.
I'm
you know what's funny is actually you guys are getting an exclusive because when the news broke about this a couple years ago, I actually turned down interviews because I felt like I didn't have much to say. So when they were really active before the pandemic, right? I think it was around the pandemic that everybody split to go into the military,
yeah,
right? I'm
yeah.
trying to think of the timeline. So when they went on hiatus, I know a lot of the BTS members did their own solo projects.
Mhm.
And J Hope, who did Jack in the Box, that is the album I am on. I'm on the first track as the narrator. And I didn't even know the extent. I guess like when he was doing Lollapalooza tours, like he would come out to that track. So like thousands of people are hearing my voice. I was like, what? But how it came about, this is really, really random. And this is why I think for creatives, you don't know what seeds you're planting because you just got to do the work and eventually it'll help you out. I was doing this is during the pandemic now, right? Well, right before and then during. I was doing a series of Fujifilm commercials. They had like a camera line or something, and they were doing these really fun spots where it was like the life and times of a very crazy photo shop, and we were all just insane characters. It was a lot of fun. And so we were recurring. So we were coming back a lot. And the crew was also recurring. So I got to know them. And also, here's my other tip for all you actors out there: always be nice to your crew. They make you look good, they're very sweet, and they work regularly. They will remember you. So I always make it a point to get to know the crew.
Mhm.
And I got to know the sound person on that set, and he was very lovely. In fact, he had an amazing voice. I was like, you should go into voiceover because he was so good at it. And we worked together multiple times. And I don't remember how. I think it was because I said something about, he had a great voice for voiceover, and I was also personally looking for male co-narrators because in the romance field, a lot of it's a duet narration. So I was like, hey, if you know your way around a sound booth and you can do this, like I'm always looking for male narrators to work with. And so we exchanged information. And then randomly he messaged me and he goes, hey, a friend of mine needs a voiceover thing. Can you do it? I'm like, okay, sure. It's a narration. Like I thought it was like a book narration. I didn't even know what was going on. And I laid down the track. I sent it in and I was like, whatever, I just thought nothing of it. It's just like a normal gig. And then a couple months later, the producer messages me and he goes, hey, here's the project you're on. And he sends me the link and it's J Hope's album, and it went platinum within like hours. And I was like, what am I on? So yes, that would be the story.
Wow. Wow. Do you know how many people out there dream of that type of opportunity, and that I mean, that's just like because BTS's fandom is like rabid. I mean, they're just and when they announced that they were getting back together and they were touring, it was just like
Hey, if even old dudes like us know about BTS, then it's,
I will say their fandom is the sweetest group of people
Oh,
because a few years ago, in fact, well, I don't know if I can take it down. I can send you probably the picture. I have the album. I'm just worried about like moving my camera, but I have the
oh,
album on my office wall signed by J Hope, and I put it on my socials, and people like their outpouring of love was so sweet on socials, and saying like, "Oh my gosh, I listen to this album all the time. I fall asleep, hearing your voice." And I was like, "You guys are so nice,"
oh.
like so they are very shout out to the BTS army because you guys are very sweet people.
That's great. Uh, I
Yes, Riley, you're a sweet cat too. He's like, "What about
yeah,
me?"
that reminds me a little bit of our cat.
that does. Our cat's a little
Yeah,
smaller, but
she's a little smaller, but,
coloration is very similar.
yeah,
All right, Janet, is it your question or is it my question?
I think you're up.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, you know, I think I'm gonna do something a little different. So let me
Uh,
switch cameras.
just
Hello.
prepare yourself.
So, Roshni, um,
Mhm.
tell us about your book series. Tell everybody wants to know about your book series. Tell us about your book series.
Sure, sure. I actually have two. So the first one is the Kingdom Legacy series. They're standalones in a connected universe, and it follows a character, one from each of the seven kingdoms, and each kingdom is known for like a unique ability or thing. And the first book of that is actually the one I mentioned that was based off the D&D character that I was supposed to play, and I didn't get to, so I wrote her backstory out instead in a book. And I wrote it as standalones on purpose because, like, hey, we all are busy. Like sometimes you look at a series, I know I do, and I go, oh my gosh, that's like 17 books long. I don't have time to get into that. So I did it so you could just pick up any book and not really feel lost, even though stuff does happen that affects the world. You can start at book 6 if you wanted and not, feel like you needed to read everything in front of it. But I wouldn't mind if you did. And then my second series is Retold, which is dark gothic fairy tale retellings. The first book is Seeing Red, which is based off Little Red Riding Hood. And then I plan on releasing the next one, Midnight Rose, which is based off of Beauty and the Beast later this year.
Awesome. Awesome. And we will make sure that we get all that in the show notes when the time comes.
Yep.
Now,
Um,
it's I really hate talking to authors who produce series, and the reason being is that we read a lot,
Mhm.
and we listen to audiobooks. Is this available as an audiobook?
It is actually, I'm the narrator
Oh,
on all of them.
of
Yep.
course you are.
Uh-oh, uh-oh. We have something else to listen to on the
I
way to our next
Yes,
convention.
we do. Cool.
This is
Very good.
so we
Ve
listen to tons of audiobooks and
Yeah,
we love series, but they do get to
yeah.
be addictive. We had an author on the show about 2 years ago now, I think, and after we interviewed her, we had to listen to every single one of her books in 3 different series.
Oh, wow.
Well, they're yeah, the thing about it is they were so engaging, and they just grabbed you, and then you had to read the next one. And
Mhm.
these are series, I mean, so the story just continues, along the way. It's not like what you described, where you can't just pick up one in the middle and, you know, go with it. You have to start from the beginning. But they're all terrific. So um, so again, with the writing, are you planning to you've already said there's another one coming out, right? And there
Mhm.
okay, when is that book coming out?
So in theory, I'd like it to come out, well, I just actually heard back from my cover artist. So I'd like it to come out this summer, but because of the cover art, I might be pushing that back a little bit. And I also want to do a Kickstarter for. I did a Kickstarter for Seeing Rose, for Seeing Red, to do those special editions because I just really wanted a pretty edition of my book. So it's gorgeous. It's got like the foil on the front and like the sprayed edges and all that stuff. I should have. I am not prepared. I should have actually had one here handy to show you. But I can send you links and stuff to the so you can see the insides of it. So I want to have special editions of that entire series because hey, I already started it. So
Okay. Well, I wanna ask you because you've done so many things
So many things.
and are currently, doing multiple things. What's your biggest challenge?
oh wow, this is gonna sound weird, but like okay, so I was working as a video game writer for the last couple years, and I got let go in September. That's a whole nother story about how gaming is kind of imploding, but it's weird when I have to structure my time. Like my first book series, that first book came out in 2021, and I wrote all those 7 books while I was working with that company. And I think having to structure my time motivated me really well. And then I've been looking for a new day job since last September, but I'm like, cool, I have all this time to work on my books. And have I been? No. You know what I mean? So I think it sounds weird, but having deadlines and having structure really helps me. And when I don't have that, I'm floundering. And so I have to force myself to be like, okay, structure your day, Rashni. Okay, you have to have this first draft done by now because otherwise I'll just like put it off.
I totally get that. I retired back in August, and I sort of went through a floundering stage where I worked for 26 and a half years where I had this structure, this routine, these things that had to be done each day. And when I retired, I didn't have that. So I finally got smart and started making a to-do list for each day, and I would make the to-do list for the next day. So I would have those things to do that I could look at and say, "Oh, I need to do this and this." And it's helped immensely. It really has. Gives me focus. So I get exactly where you're coming from.
I need to do that.
I kind of thought she would say time management,
That
which
that does seem
is
to be a big challenge for a lot of independent creators.
well, and what you're describing is sort of a time management issue. So anyway, Okay.
All right,
Uh,
drum roll, please. It is now the time for the most important question of the interview. Where can our audience find out more about you and your works?
Oh, wow. A lot of places. I would send you to my website first, which is rachanee.net. You can also buy books directly there, audiobooks, ebooks, and physical books. But if you're into Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, Kobo, all that stuff, that's where they're also. I am also a big proponent of the library. I used to work for the library system. So if you're like, hey, I would love to read your stuff or listen to the audiobook, go get it on Overdrive, go get it on Hoopla, request it at your local library. At least I know here in LA, if you request it and they buy it, you are the first person in line to get it. So I'm hoping it's like that at libraries everywhere. But yes,
well, we want to thank you so much again for taking the time to join us and talk with us a little bit. We have thoroughly enjoyed meeting you and talking with you. It has been a lot of fun and educational. It's been a blast. So again, we really appreciate it.
thank you so much.
And we also want to thank our audience for joining us today and hope you've been inspired and entertained by today's guest, Rachanee Lumayno. And this is the Spaceman for the Halfling and the Spaceman podcast. Over and out.